Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. Welcome back to Financial Freedom for the Lazy Person. Question is, are you lazy enough to want to make work optional? Happy Thanksgiving. As I'm wrapping up Thanksgiving here in Thailand, it seems like you're probably starting Thanksgiving at home. This video comes from a question from my live stream, which happens every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific. So if you want your questions answered during a live stream, next Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific, I will do a live stream that lasts as long as the questions do, even though I think I'm 15 hours ahead of where I normally do this. It'll be at 4 p.m. Pacific. This is going to be a nice short live stream for those people who would never click on a 2-hour video. And I hope the river isn't too loud and you can actually hear me. But why does the complaining happen in the beginning? This is a question I got from, thank you, Wealth with Rentals. But when you listen to people like the successful people who have reached financial freedom, made work optional and walked away, like those of us in the One Rental at a Time community, Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time, Matt, the lumberjack landlord, and myself, the lazy investor, even though we're starting to see more and more of that term pop up from other people now. Millennial Mike is on the cusp of being that retired person too. I'd say within a year, maybe two. But why don't you hear us complaining about the same things? The literal question was, why don't I hear you complaining about anything we complain about? Or we don't hear you complaining about anything we complain about. Do you not have any vacancies, for example, or anything that sucked recently? So it's not recency bias. It's we complained about the same things in the beginning. Right? It's a great question. Like, here's the uncomfortable truth. I used to complain about all of the same things because I was new. So if you're new, if you're in the first 5 years, those 5 years of suck that we call them, before you get to the 50 plus years, if you feel like it, of financial freedom where you don't have a boss, a schedule, and a lot of the stress that comes from having to work, you don't have to sell your life 1 hour at a time. The idea is learning a skill is much harder than using a skill that you know. Right? When you're new to real estate, you don't have experience. You don't have systems. Sometimes you don't have reserves. Right? You don't have some of those things that make a big problem seem like maybe not so big a problem. But every problem in the beginning feels like 100% problem, right? Why the complaining starts early. Please don't take offense at this. The reason we are watching content and the reason I'm creating content is because you might not have the experience or the systems yet that this kind of content can get you. You don't know what you're doing yet. I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning either. I didn't vet tenants when I started, right? I didn't see myself as a real landlord, so I didn't think I could rent to a stranger, right? Who could trust a stranger? So I wanted to rent to a friend. And if you rent to a friend, who wants a lease between buddies? So I didn't verify tenants. I didn't manage my tenants very well. That one tenant in the beginning felt like it took 20 hours a week. And now I have 18 rental units. I live in one, so 17 are rented out. Those 17 take me about 2 hours a month instead of 20 hours a week to manage one tenant. In the beginning, basically, if somebody had a pulse and a story, I handed them keys like it was Oprah giving out cars, right? In the beginning, you don't have a buffer. If you have a bad tenant when you only have one rental, you have 100% problems. If you have a bad tenant when you have 17, it's barely a recognizable percentage. I think it's between 5 and 7% of your portfolio versus 100%. So when you have 150 plus like Matt, or 180 plus like Zuber, or 27 plus like Millennial Mike, or 17, why focus on the one that's an issue? The one that calls you for stupid things, or the one that you hope moves out, or the one that you think you're probably going to have your eviction with. So we don't make a lot of content about that. But when we talk about those early years, we're very clear to point out those years sucked. The reserves you don't have, when something breaks, it feels like it's coming out of your pocket because we set aside a part of gross rents over time and build a reserve. So I look forward to a water heater breaking because that's technically my tenants buying a thing for my asset. But in those first few years, since you haven't built the reserves yet and you don't have enough rentals so the 15% can cover everything that you're setting aside, and the cheaper the market you're in, the bigger that percentage should be, it feels like it's coming right out of your pocket. Ouch. But a bad tenant when you have a lot of rentals is just a Tuesday. A bad tenant when you're starting out is the thing that makes you question your choices. In the beginning, cash flow was slow. It was years. I don't think in the first 5 years I passed $1,000 a month in cash flow. The hockey stick starts to happen in year 6 to 10. In those first 5, it's a slow and steady, almost imperceptible growth. So when something impacts your cash flow, it feels huge. It feels like in the beginning is when we want to complain. I was complaining then too. Matt was complaining. In the beginning, he hit the Great Recession. He had almost all of his rentals rented out to people in the construction industry. He went from 9 paying to 7 paying to 3 to 1. How much complaining do you think he would have done if Matt had a channel in 2009? Right? It's those first few years, you're going to notice more of these. We want to show you the light at the end of the tunnel so that you know that it's worth it to go through the 5 years of suck to get to the point where, yeah, a crappy tenant is going to happen. Tenant's going to trash your property. I had one trash my property last year. I made a video about it. It's got me in a gas mask because the place smelled so bad. Or not a gas mask, but an N17 at least, an N91, whatever it was. I had set aside 15% of gross rents, around $2,000 a month in gross rents from that tenant for over 5 years. I had $13,000 sitting in an account waiting to go in there, and I didn't even spend up to $9,000 to fix all of the mess that they made, even though they stole most of the electric stuff. I didn't care. Tenant paid for all that. Is it frustrating? Sure. If it's your first tenant, I don't know, you have a second tenant. But when it's one of 17 in financial freedom, when you don't have to work because of what you've done, how you've put your money to work, I actually just don't care as much. You've got most people quit before they even get to the this is annoying stage, but it's manageable. An example is Matt the Lumberjack Landlord. In 2020 or 2021, this thing came out called the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. So people who were either losing their houses, weren't working, or said they weren't working, the government would pay more than what Section 8 pays if you housed them, if they could rent a unit from you for a year. And Matt wanted to help people. He has a huge portfolio and he's smart. He didn't do it for more than 10% of his portfolio. So I think it was around 13 units. He allowed the Emergency Rental Assistance Program to make him more money and to house those people. Here's why Matt was ethical in doing this. He knew at his core that at the year mark, when that program stopped, he had 13 evictions. That was his expectation. And I think he went through 11 of them. That's how bad it was. If your whole portfolio was dedicated to the Emergency Rental Assistance Program in the beginning because you saw the shiny dollar signs, if they're paying me more than what Section 8 will pay, that's higher than area market rents, I'm going to jump on that. And next year, you have 100% of your units going through an eviction. Do you have a third year? So a lot of the complaining from us, from new investors, happens in the beginning. The problems continue to happen. I think Joe Rogan explained this in a clip recently. So associate this with your real estate portfolio, your stock portfolio, or your crypto portfolio. But he was talking about age. Why does 4 years seem so long when you're 20? And when you're in your 50s, 4 years seems like it's going to go by in the blink of an eye. Like you're trying to figure out how to get enough things packed into those 4 years for them to count. But at 20, the idea of joining a union and getting 4 years before you hit your apprenticeship is over and now you're a journeyman, it just seems so long, right? Well, because 4 years at 20 is what? 20% of your life? 4 years at 50 is barely a recognizable percentage of your life. So the bigger your portfolio is, the problems stay about the same. They might scale a little larger because you have more numbers, more of Murphy's Law can go into effect, but you have more things going right that you can justify it with. So as you get better at real estate and you learn how to vet your tenants, you develop your systems to have handymen handle issues so it's not taking up your time, to outsource the things that aren't actually productive for you to do, thinking you save money in the beginning. How many times I painted a place when someone moved out? Now I hire a handyman for like $400 a day, paint an entire place in 2 days. So I pay $800 and save myself however many weekends it would have taken me. When I was working, that really mattered. I should have paid the handyman in the beginning, but you develop those systems later to where a tenant moving out, a tenant turnover, I actually look at the massive increase in rental income more than I look at the frustration of having to list the unit, screen tenants, place tenants, make sure everything's fixed for the next tenants, because those systems are there and they weren't there in the beginning. The tenant turnovers were so bad in the beginning. Remember, I tried to quit. If you've ever heard my story before, my first tenant was so bad. He was a single parent. I was a single parent. So when rent was late, I tried to understand. Late became never. And when I finally went to the house to have a face-to-face conversation, I found out he didn't live there. He had moved out, rented the place to someone else with a freaking lease. He did so much better than me. He was a better landlord with my property than I was. That doesn't happen now. So I don't have the same complaints. We get better at picking people, right? I didn't become a smarter investor, right? I got tired of making bad decisions. So we eliminate some of those bad decisions. The other thing that we look at, and I talk about this often, is a lot of people say, I was thinking if I got one rental every 2 years, in 10 years, I'd have 5. So the goal would be 5 rentals. So people think, oh, I have enough money. If somebody goes and buys 5 rentals, they'd be set. That's not how it works. I was thinking if every 2 years I bought a rental, I'd buy one in 2 years, at the 10-year mark, I would have owned a property for 8 years. I would have owned the next property for 6 years and the next property for 4. And then the hockey stick kicked in and it went a lot faster than I thought. But it's owning a property for time. Properties age into profitability. You have value add opportunities where I added a closet to a den and turned it into a bedroom. You have opportunities to refinance to a better rate. You have the binder strategy to get rents where you want them, or you have tenant turnover to get rents where you want them. You can build your reserves and call your insurance company and raise your deductible so you have a lower premium to increase your cash flow. Like you have all of these options that you don't really have in the beginning. So it's the season of complaining to get to the reason of financial freedom. Bigger reserves don't make your problems smaller. They make them easier to handle, even though they're the same size. The quietest success stories are the ones who already fought their battles. Think about that. When you get to the success part, we talk about the things that worked out. Here's what you do to get this result. Sometimes I need to be reminded, like the question from Wealth with Rentals, what were the challenges in the beginning? Mostly self-caused. Some of it is because you haven't owned property for a while. Some of it is because you only own 1 or 2 properties, or you're just saving for it. You don't have your systems in place. You don't have the education or the experience. All of those problems are going to happen. They continue to happen. I still have mistakes. I still text Matt sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, what do you do in this situation? But it's this much of an issue because of all of the things that are going right. So as you're starting your invest, remember, don't compare year 10 to year 1, even with the complaining. In year 10, you get to the point where the mosquitoes eat you alive in another country. You got to remember not to do videos at this time, but I was trying to make sure it was Thanksgiving so I could say happy Thanksgiving to everybody as I'm wrapping up that day here. But at year 10, you don't have a boss. You have passive income. You can choose to work instead of needing it. Travel whenever you want. You create accidental generational wealth. The kids and grandkids will inherit options instead of stress. But all of that comes from those first few years where you do complain and you can reach out in the one rental at a time school community. And Matt's, the Lumberjack Landlords, Thursday live streams, 6 p.m. Pacific, almost every week for 3 or 4 years now. Mine every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, where we answer questions and don't charge you a penny. We do appreciate a like. If you appreciate the content, it's helping make your life better. Maybe hit the like button and help an angel get its wings. I just want you to understand that it's worth it, and keep up the good questions like the one that sparked this video, because sometimes I need to be reminded what you need to hear. You've got this. Have a day full of amazing. Go into a turkey coma. Ciao.